Greetings, my friends. Mkwann here. Gregorian calendar date, June 26, Gregorian calendar year, 2024. And we've got ourselves a special episode today. So I want to begin by introducing today's guest, my good friend, Sean Gould, the Sacred Center.
Right on. Hey, Mike, everybody.
It's weird to be here, right?
Yeah, totally.
Because you've watched these videos on the other side, and now you're on this side.
Yeah, first time.
Yeah. So everybody, what's fun about this, and what I always try to bring in all the videos which I make, is a degree of transparency and authenticity. And by being authentic and transparent, like, this is us being real in a conversation which has not been rehearsed. And what we're going to talk about today is what it's like to participate and go through the experience of one of these river and star ceremonies, which I've discussed in such great detail over the past, 5 months. And Sean here has been to 3 of the 4 ceremonies from this year, and then a 4th one from last year. So I guess with that being said, let's begin with this way. Can you maybe talk to the folks that watch at home, like what you used to do, and maybe introduce yourself and what your connection is to me, to maybe whatever Susquehanna alchemy is, and then the river and stars.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I'll start with where I got connected to the Susquehanna alchemy, probably 2018. I felt like there's a lot of theories out there, but nobody was really putting together things, and I got referred to your work, and it made sense how you were connecting it not only to like real life, but to your life and to then all of our lives. I go by Sacred Center because I feel personally like kind of aligning with Susquehanna alchemy, that I have to find the connections in myself first, and then really relate to myself and find out who I really am. And the more I do that, the more I see connections to the other, like the as above, so below. And obviously you start without knowing that by looking outside of yourself, and then things start to connect to your life. But then I think you did a great job of showing how to just kind of dissect your location and your life and your past and the things that have happened, and then you start seeing reflections in the rest of the world and connections.
So we got to know each other face to face last summer.
Yeah.
Last summer.
33.
On the 33-day cross-country trip, which Christy and I took, we stayed with you in Arizona for a week. You put us up in the facility which you ran. Facility is a good word. But you've come now. This is the 3rd time that you've come east. We're in Pennsylvania right now.
Yeah.
And I want to go back to probably the last time we were together, before you arriving now, and it was at the beginning of the River and Star ceremony, the April 8th.
The first one.
So let's talk about that for a little bit. So I'm gonna open it up to you. Like, how would you describe? I mean, not so much like the day, like what we did, but like what happened. Like what did that open up? What was that experience like? Like, not just that moment, but then what unfolded afterwards.
I had my own personal stuff that I was working on for that. So I came very open and came to stay with you, and then had some time to hang out and chit chat and get to know each other more.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, noticing connections that were happening, and then I think our personalities work in a way where we build stories off of each other in a good way. Which is
You and me, or all people?
Yeah, me and you.
Okay.
Yeah, it's maybe because of our personalities, maybe because our enjoyment of joking, but that gets us both in kind of like a flow state where we can kind of play off each other and build and build and build. And, just it's a blessing to be able to do that with somebody.
So we do that, and then the whole purpose of River and Stars is, I would describe it, is to develop a flow state relationship with life.
100%.
100%. And what I think is special and unique about the dynamic which we share is just like what you're saying, like we flow off of each other really well. So there's like this flow state which is happening on this level, human to human, and then there's a flow state then that happens with this connection, with this field, with the much larger field.
Yeah, totally. So that it would be one thing if it was just we were hanging out and just shooting pool and then it was over, but that was building towards something that was designed exactly for that situation.
Okay.
Which would be the River and Star ceremony, that type of connection.
Okay.
So the people that were all together, it wasn't just me and you, but everyone that was together was going to the River and Stars.
Okay.
And we were all building that thing, and something was pulling together, whether it was jokes or whether it was a situation we were in or stories about the River and Stars. Like everyone being in a positive, open state, open mental state, everyone started building things together. It was like we were constructing ideas, and then you see a lot of connections in between each other, and that's like exactly what happens at the River and Stars. So it was kind of like a setup to it, like a perfect setup to what we were going into.
So let's get a little bit more specific. What happened? Like, let's talk about what happened immediately afterwards, like in our lives, and then what happened with your life, like maybe like 2 weeks afterwards, in my life as well. Like, what were there any tangible experiences, or like what can we talk about? I think you know what I'm.
Yeah, well, I went into it looking for something.
Okay.
And expecting a change cosmically, interpersonally. With the way I saw the world, with the way the world met me, the whole gambit. That was my whole ritual for the eclipse, and we did the ceremony. I had whatever happened with me there personally, and then the whole situation with everybody else. But then when I got home, I didn't know what the change was going to be, but it was dramatic. A very big personal thing happened to me and completely shifted 180 degrees where I was going, how I could head that way, how I dealt with things, and it was not what I wanted, but it was what I needed.
Okay.
You know, so it seemed like I can't believe this is happening. This is like what you would perceive as like a terrible thing or a nightmare, but it didn't take long to see that that's exactly what I was calling out for, but in a different way.
Like part of your life imploded.
Yeah. Yes, totally. Yeah.
So part of your life, and that happened immediately upon returning back to Arizona, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And
almost within hours.
Within hours. And shortly after the River and Stars, like we had that very strange sort of run-in, as I discussed in the secret video. So for the folks of you who've seen the secret video that I've alluded to many times. Sean here was an active participant of when we discovered that whole place.
Yeah. The whole situation and all the aspects that were just like we were talking about.
What did it feel like? So in the video, I don't know if everyone who's watching this has watched that video which I'm referring to, and if you're interested, you send me an email and I'll send you a copy of it, or I'll send you a link to it. I'm just not publicly releasing it on YouTube because it's just maybe a little bit sensitive material. I don't want to do so, but the video talks about really dark sort of elements within culture and within our society, yet when it was happening, it was the most surreal, humorous sort of thing, right?
Yeah, it was. It made me want to see a few movies that were based off that, like a 3,000-Year Relationship or whatever that one is, and
Right.
then Argyle. So where just being in that mode and state that we were in, we started creating something that actually became real.
So what do those movies have to do with make that link? What do you mean specifically?
The link is we were open enough together, the 4 or 5 of us, to not break down an idea, but to build on it and build on it and build on it. And to me, it seems like if you can get more minds working together on a narrative and build it, it changes from an idea and starts to matter. It starts to be a real thing.
So I'm not trying to put words in your mouth,
Yeah.
but we started with a ridiculous idea of going to this place.
Yeah.
There was a location.
I don't even know if you got that off enough in the secret video.
Right,
how
right.
It was just literally goofing around and something that you thought would be really funny turned into some serious material.
It was literally Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
It was
Exactly.
Scooby-Doo. It was 5, we were in the mystery van. Is that what they called it in Scooby-Doo? We were there was a sense of humor. We were running, this was right after the River and Stars, and what I'm trying to illustrate, what I'm trying to paint here is we went to the River and Stars ceremony with an understanding of we're connecting with the layer of reality on a very, very literal sense and beyond conscious. We know we're doing it, but we don't really understand what we're doing.
Yeah, how we're doing it.
We don't understand what's going to happen,
Yeah.
but we're okay, we're going to go and do this. We understand about what the nature of the river is. We understand about the nature of time. We understand natural astrology. We understand the nature of this being a mystery and a co-creative mystery. And so we did that, and then a handful of days later, we find ourselves in a situation which we just kind of what you're saying, we created. We're going to go to this this store which is off of a highway, and we're going to say that this is this crazy store, and we're doing it tongue in cheek the whole way, and then it turned out to be exactly even more so than what we
Even joking about characters that were connected to it ended up being connected to it, which was, those things started to get really weird.
And it was dark material.
Mm-hmm.
It was dark material, but it was also funny. There was a humor which we had with it. We ran through that for 4 days, and then you returned home, and then that's when your life, in a way, it imploded. But maybe another way of saying it is a part of your life instantaneously had to come to a crash for another part to show itself.
Yeah. I would say that's right on.
So
He got eclipsed.
he got eclipsed.
He was incepted.
He was incepted. So let's now fast forward to last weekend. Last weekend was
Berkeley Springs.
Berkeley Springs. And so one of the things which in what happened after the first River and Stars ceremony, in the video we go into it, and we go into the fact that it seems like we are connected to some deep state activity.
Exactly, yeah.
And then we go to Berkeley Springs, and that
And that's with the
continues.
Jeffrey Goff stuff, right?
The Dale Graff.
Dale Graff stuff, yeah.
Dale Graff. So okay.
All on the secret video.
So what I talked about before we went to Berkeley Springs on the solstice, but there began to be an awareness that there is an overlap between how this River and Stars agenda schedule was laid out, that it's lining up perfectly with these other elements particularly within the conspiracy world.
Like geomancy.
There's a strange geomancy which it was never the purpose of River and Stars. Like River and Stars has always been about aerocirculation, which means to circle the land for the purpose of preparing for an unknown new destiny. And everything was selected for very logical personal reasons. Like there wasn't anything like we're going to go here because of the deep state or that in the deep state.
Yeah.
But it turns out we found ourselves in that situation.
Yeah, dug deep into it based off location.
So let's talk a little bit about then like Berkeley Springs, like what we experienced. Berkeley Springs, West Virginia is where we found ourselves.
West Virginia. A lot to talk about.
All right. Well, where do we want to begin? What if there was one story which we want to start with, which happened, or maybe which might encapsulate?
I would think it'd be the bridge.
The bridge? What were you going to say?
The Chesapeake and that he drew it. I thought it.
Okay. This is a really good one.
Synced from the beginning, like from last fall.
This is before I even got here.
Okay.
The geomancy.
That's a pretty important thing.
Threading us together too.
Yeah, I like the way you explained it. So, how did you start that? You, Christy was getting a feeling that she has this Queen Elizabeth coin, and she could feel that it needed to be integrated into the Berkeley Springs.
So I'm going to pause right now, and I think this is what's really important. The Queen Elizabeth coin was mailed to us from just someone who watches these videos. Just like you're someone who watched these videos.
Yeah.
Like at one point you were on the other side of the computer screen than this. And the point I want to say is like what we're building is like it's spilling out in reality in all these like seemingly insignificant ways. But this woman who watched this video or these videos, who's touched by this information, who decided to reach out and say like, hey, I'm going to go and mail you this silver coin of Queen Elizabeth because I know that ties into somehow to what you're doing. So pick the 400-year curse, like the Susquehanna Mystery 101. So, okay.
Yeah, so Christy thinks, or she's getting a feeling that the coin needs to play a bigger part in the Berkeley Springs water ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that the Queen.
Maybe.
I knew that the Queen hadn't been integrated yet, and that her time was coming up, and I just wasn't sure what that meant. But I thought, okay, we have Berkeley Springs, and then Occoquan, and then the Chesapeake Bay. And then I was like, oh, the Chesapeake Bay. What is that? We've leaned into Berkeley Springs, we've leaned into Occoquan, but we haven't really leaned into just the basics of Chesapeake, you know? And that's when I realized, oh, the Chesapeake is the peak of the chess game. And I was like, oh, well, the Queen needs to start getting in the flow now at Berkeley at the headwaters.
She is the,
because she's the head.
She is the peak of the chessboard.
And so she has
Good
to
point.
flow from the headwaters to the peak of the chess game and be released back into the wild, because she's held this archetype of the like not an archetype, the Queen. You know, like, I guess the Queen is an archetype, and really just longing for that. For us to release the 400-year spell, quote, like that's, I'm just saying that in like narrative form. it's like the queen is like, well, god damn it, like, what do you, like, release me, like, let me return my raw feminine power back to the mouth of the Susquehanna. That was my part. And I got all excited, and I got on Telegram
And this
with
is 2
Michael.
days before the...
Yes, before Berkeley Springs.
And at that time, I wasn't going to come out to the Berkeley Springs. But 2 days before that, I had a feeling that I needed to express what Berkeley Springs was going to be and mkwann was going to be and what it meant to me and how, like, we all see this in a different way. Everybody has their own pull or tug on what this means to them. And what was coming to me was chess. And the moves of the chessboard and the occult meaning of each piece and why they move the way they move. None of that is accidental. And the meaning of the checkerboard and how you use and manipulate reality using a chessboard or the ideas of playing the game. So I integrated all that and what the River and Stars meant to me into a drawing. And it was kind of like what's talked about of getting, how do you say that, a new idea for the land.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly how you express that, but giving it an opportunity to...
For a new destiny?
New destiny, yeah, exactly. So a part of it was like a new destiny was coming over and covering the chessboard, and the chessboard would be like the matrix that's put over the land. And then this arc angles, so I use the queen as the chess piece, or the rook, because that's how the light comes in and affects this world. And I did that drawing, and I sent it, like, I did it like 2 days and sent it one day and got it here in time for the Berkeley Springs event.
And I think the point which were what you were bringing up was Sean mailed you and me the picture he drew and to have for the Berkeley Springs, and it lined up with your unique thought, and you're like, oh my god, he drew this before, like, we didn't even know that we were having the same ideas.
I mean, I even saw the picture and I was like, whoa, interesting chess. It took me like 8 hours to put it together, that his drawings, like, reading my mind about the queen being the kind of the slip, like the way through, the way out.
The deepest part of it is the queen.
Yeah.
She's the only way to get out, is to go in
And the
through the
peak of
deepest
the
way.
game is, like, Chesapeake Bay is where it's at for her. Like, and it's also the final East Coast piece to the circulation.
So then I got here, the day before Berkeley Springs. You guys picked me up from where I was staying.
With pictures.
With the picture, and I was like, oh, great, and we were talking about it, and then Mike's like, yeah, I know, but we already talked about that.
Yeah.
That the Chesapeake is the peak of the game, right? Isn't that how it went?
Right.
You remembered the three of us having a
So,
conversation.
so Christy says to me, she's like, oh my god, I can't believe, like, Sean read my mind. I'm like, no, don't you remember? We all had this conversation. Like, I remember it as clear as can be. Like, we talked about, like, the chess peak and the peak of the chess and the queen and blah, blah, blah. Like, this is the byproduct of our conversation. And you're like, I don't remember it. I'm like, you don't remember anything.
No, you just make up memories.
And then Sean's like, no, that didn't happen. We didn't talk about that. But I guess the point and where to begin with this, yeah, I mean, and that's very common, that my memories, sometimes my memories, I'm uncertain if they're memories of dreams or they're memories of actual events or maybe something else. So that set the stage for Berkeley Springs.
Yeah.
And we go to Berkeley Springs, and we were there for 2 nights. We arrived there the day of the ceremony.
That's right.
Okay. And it almost seems like the ceremonies are secondary. Like, I mean, we go through the ceremony, but it's everything else that happens, which is what really matters.
It is like the main pillar of all these other events. It creates all those other events. If it wasn't for that, all this stuff wouldn't happen. It's just interesting how that happens. It's the centerpiece, but it's...
So Berkeley Springs, West Virginia is first, like maybe its first place in mainstream culture is they've got a natural springs, and it's known as America's first resort. George Washington, they're like, this is the bathtub which George Washington used to spring. And apparently the Washington, the descendants of George Washington, they still own lots and lots of land like in that general area. Now the second thing culturally, which I didn't discover until I did the preparation for that, the Sisyphus video, which was about what occurred, that secret video that occurred after the eclipse River and Stars ceremony on April 8th, is that the Arlington Institute is based out of Berkeley Springs. Berkeley Springs is maybe a couple thousand people live there. It's not like a city. It's like, it's a small little town. And without getting into like what the Arlington Institute is, the two things which I want to point out, which are noteworthy, or at least where I think we're going to go with our conversation, is the fact that the Arlington Institute is, it's AI.
Yeah.
And AI is one of these themes which we discuss quite frequently, not necessarily like computer AI, but the concept of AI and what AI may or may not actually be. And then on top of all of that,
and that ties definitely into the deep state.
The deep states.
Many different.
So we got the AI, like AI double entendre, and then we've got deep state double entendre, like deep state, like conspiratorial government sort of things, and we're in the heart of what's known as the continuation of government, is all in West Virginia and that part of Maryland, but then also deep state, meaning like a deep trance, a deep state of being, so there's that element, but the hook, in my opinion, like the Scooby-Doo hook on what we're experiencing is the fact that where we were staying, it was, for people who've been following Susquehanna Alchemy for a while, and you're familiar with my stay in Baltimore, the same guy who did the Baltimore house, he's got property outside of Berkeley Springs where there are maybe 3 off-grid, like, unbelievable cabins. Like, there's no way to describe what they are. Like, it's beyond, it's a real special place. It's random. It's nowhere, amazing views. And it is a half a mile away from John Peterson's house, who is the founder and thought leader of the Arlington Institute. And that mirrors exactly what we experienced where we were staying back on April 8th, where we were half a mile away from Dale Graff of Project Stargate. Like, wherever we go, we're a half a mile away from the private residence of these deep state individuals. Yeah. And like, that's the funniness. That's the like, what is that? What is this AI? What is this experience which is...
And like you said, the locations weren't planned. The geomancy that comes after it is all based off of something else. Whatever is above us that we're tapping into, or whatever you guys are tapping into, that's not part of the planning. And neither was the locations of these guys,
right?
Groff or Peterson, because we were at the cabins already.
And we didn't choose.
Hanging around, and then someone's like, "Oh, I think I can see Graff's or Peterson's house." We're like, "What are you talking about? We didn't even know." Like, that's how this stuff is just occurring. It's naturally, cymatically coming together.
Geomancy is, it's the natural occurring magic of the earth, and so you can't plan it and cast it. You can only
beautiful.
Absorb it and pull it through your being.
Yeah, really well said. Yeah, and that's exactly what's happening. It's like people talk about geomancy, and it's like, no, this is over here, and this is sacred, but this is like the real the real geomancy.
Because it's life. It's like we're experiencing it in real time. We're not reading a book about it. We're not like practicing something where you get certification, so now you could then go and teach something.
Yeah.
It's like, no, that's why Scooby-Doo to me feels like such a perfect analogy, because it's like these characters were just like off on adventures, and like I was planning to do this and somehow this happened, and like that's what's going on. So I want to bring in another element before we maybe add to where you're going to go with West Virginia and maybe the bridge. And we all arrived at West Virginia. We arrived at Berkeley Springs at 11:30 because we were soaking in the old bathhouse, which is
the Roman bathhouse.
The Roman bathhouse, and then the ceremony was at 3:00. And we go there, and it's the whole thing is just kind of funny, right? Everything about like West Virginia and Berkeley Springs, it's charming. I recommend anyone who could go there, like go there. And
it is
our friend,
exactly what you'd think, and so much more.
Our friend Ron goes there, or he comes out afterwards, after we've all been there, and inside the bathhouses, and I believe the bathhouses were built in the 1800s. That's what they tell us, right?
Yeah.
And there are pictures from, I don't know, when did they say photography began? Like 1860s? 1860s. So it's probably like, I think it's 1800s photography, maybe early 1900s. And there's a picture, and you see this hat. You see literally this hat like hanging on the wall at the bathhouse. It's a picture of the bathhouse from like the 1880s.
Where the queen just got baptized.
Where the like all we brought the queen in there, and there's this element like, this is a hat which I wear a lot, so there's a little bit of personal connection with it. And yes, it does look like it. And it's funny to think like we're traveling back and forth in time. But I'm not like taking it that seriously, right? But that changed when we went to the bridge. So can we talk about the bridge for a second?
The bridge is fun. The bridge would be what you would read about in a book or hear about in a magazine, or like in a side tale of a movie about what West Virginia would be. It's kind of like a legendary idea of what we went through. And
like we're on a backcountry road. And we're looking for what?
A swimming hole.
We're literally looking for a West Virginia swimming hole.
And where would you find one in West Virginia? Not in a regular spot.
Right, yeah. It's like it's like the gravel road, and we're like, this is it, and we pull up.
Yeah, it's under a bridge.
So it's, yes, like the swimming hole is under the bridge. So we went to another swimming hole even earlier.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
And what do we see there?
Saw a water snake. First water snake I've ever seen.
And its head was like above the surface of the water. Like it was like a cobra head. I don't know. Maybe that's normal. But we saw that it was a topic of conversation. Yeah. It was a topic of conversation. And when we were there, at that first watering hole, you've got a tattoo on your right shoulder. Mm-hmm. And at that swimming hole, for some reason, like it was that, like, what's the story of that tattoo? Because it's an unusual tattoo. And you're like, well, and you told the story. Like, there's a lot of depths to that story. Like, there used to be something else. And the point being is we got into that. We got into that story.
This is the same day.
Same day. 4 hours later, 3 hours later, we go to swimming hole number 2. So what do we see when we pull up?
West Virginia hillbillies.
Well, before we even see the hillbillies.
No, after we saw the hillbillies.
Oh, yeah. We pull up. We're all getting on a car, making sure we're parked in a good spot because it's a side road. Are we far enough off? Did we run over, broken glass or shotgun shells or whatever the hell's in West Virginia? And there's one car parked in front of us and 2 across the street. And the car directly in front of us has the main thing it has is the whole back windshield is a snake. And somebody did with their finger. It just happened to be the one spot that we parked in front of. There's a snake right in front of us.
So we know we're
guiding the way. It's like, this is the way to the bridge, to the swimming hole.
Right.
You have to walk past
Follow Satan. Follow the serpent.
The snakeophus, yeah.
So then we go down. We walk down to the swimming hole.
Yeah, we get down to the swimming hole.
And who's there?
Almost like character actors. Like it was like
straight out of Central Casting. Straight out of Central. All right, we got a West Virginia swimming hole.
Yeah, like the Groff or Peterson were like, yeah, they're heading down this way. Make sure there's 4 people that act like they got the right accent, and everybody's named Scooter. And yeah, it was perfect. It was a family.
Like all teenage boys. There was no girls except for the moms.
Yeah.
Except for the teenage except for the teenage girls in the bikinis and their babies.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know if she was a teenager, but okay.
Yeah. So it's exactly what you'd expect, but just awesome people. Everyone said hi. They're all super
But
cool.
they were also kind of looking sideways at us because this is the local swimming hole, and then literally the mystery van pulls up.
Yeah, no doubt. And it was definitely double take time.
It was double take. They're like, because they weren't if we were as uncommon in their world as they were to our world, right?
Most definitely.
And we were trying to be incredibly respectful. Because we're in the private swimming hole.
And if we would have continued that and played whatever they were doing, it probably would have continued in that direction. But we're not those type of people, so we ended up doing something else.
So we're there. We're kind of finding our way. Christy talks to the pregnant girl with the baby, and that really kind of smoothed things over. And at first, one boy was eyeballing me hard. But I think Christy's conversation with the girl and babies and things okay, things went back to normal. So then we walked underneath the bridge, and then you say all right, everybody, come here. Let me show you something. Notice how the shadow of the bridge is hitting the water, and look at the angle of the sun. If you hold your gaze looking at the sun and you allow the periphery to be your focus, you don't look at the periphery, but you're aware of the periphery with all your focus, you're going to be able to access the hidden worlds, where the little people live and all that. And so all right, this is a great idea. So the 4 of us, for
under a bridge in West Virginia.
We stand there silent, without moving, just all in a line, looking out into space, and
not for 1 minute, for some time.
For,
yeah,
10 minutes.
It was a long time, and over
breathing, all synchronized breathing.
over the period of the time, all of the normal Yahoo West Virginia noise,
the activity,
began to slow down, as they began to realize the strangers are doing strange things.
The mystery mobile had some definite strangers in it.
So okay, so there are 2 things where I want to go. There's a funny part, and then there's a strange part where I want to go with the story. So I'll tell the strange part, and then can you tell the funny part?
I can.
All right. So the strange part was this. So after a period of time, which everyone was looking out at the dimensions in the periphery of our vision.
Which worked.
We go and we look on the underside of the bridge, and there's a decent amount of West Virginia graffiti underneath there. And included on it, most of it is words and just maybe tags. Mm-hmm. I believe that's the graffiti lingo.
Yep.
And then there was one picture of this face, and it was just a head, and it had, and you could see the eyes and the nose and the mouth. And it was remarkably similar in every way, in color, in expression, in so many ways, to the tattoo on your arm. The one which we talked about in great detail just a handful of hours before, on top of the fact that the day before we found my hat in a picture.
Yeah.
So now we're seeing a theme. We're seeing a theme happen. What is this AI? What is this feedback loop which is so undeniable from life given back to us in the most playful and tangible manner?
No doubt.
So that happened to me. The awareness of that happened immediately after the staring session. And then what was the other thing that happened?
Then after we spoke about the tattoo, then it got silent for a minute, and Chrissy was like, I'm going to jump in, right?
To the water.
I'm going to jump into the water. And as soon as she did...
Coming in!
I'm coming in. As soon as she did, everything stopped as far as the hooligans. And they're like, time to go, guys!
Like,
instantly.
without missing a beat. That dad was like, all right, boys, out of the water.
Yeah. Johnny, Scooter, get your shit. Yeah, it was great.
And then they go up on the...
And we're still underneath the bridge, but we're like, let's say, the south side of the bridge, and we're moving away from the bridge and like trying to get closer to the water. And they take off, I'd say 3 or 4 kids, 3 or 4 adults, and they're getting their stuff, getting organized. And as we're walking away from the bridge, a big log comes down from the top of the bridge.
They throw a log over the West Virginia locals who are weirded out by...
The boys. It's clear that it was boys doing it.
Yeah, they dropped down a log. They tossed down a log. Definitely could have injured somebody. And then a few rocks after that.
And then they rev their engines on their West Virginia pickup trucks, and then there was a loud rebel yell, I believe is what it's called. Like that's what the Yankees called it in the Civil War.
I think they actually said Yahoo.
They literally yelled Yahoo, and they drove off.
Sped off.
Like it was right out of a movie. It was exactly out of a movie.
And it didn't seem nefarious. It seemed scripted.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like Scooby-Doo.
But what's AI and what's scripted? Is kind of the whole message of what we're getting at. Like, would we have noticed the hat or the tattoo on the wall if we weren't doing what we're doing? Like, we're getting into these by getting deeper into these deeper states, we're noticing other things that are happening and really getting connected to the connections, seeing the connections. They might always be there, which means like we were trying to do when we were looking in the distance. Like these things that we're looking for in the peripheral, they're always there, but we're focused on something else. So
trancing.
Yeah.
We're trancing on something.
So it's almost the exact same thing that's happening with the River and Star ceremony. You're getting attached to something else, and that's connecting you to bigger and more beautiful things.
Well, I would even say the idea of, like, there's something in the periphery, in, like, vision. When you look at the stars, like, you can only see stars in the periphery of your vision. Like, what you're talking about, not looking at stars, but looking at light, and this plane which we're existing on, like, there's something in the periphery. And I would suggest that that would be a truism which is applied in every way. So rivers and stars, by putting all of your focus upon that, so that then you can pay attention to the periphery. But you need something to focus on so that you can find periphery.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So we then leave after... Is there anything else we want to talk about Berkeley Springs before we move on?
No, I think that should do it.
HughesNet?
HughesNet. So yeah, we go back to the campground. I think there's 7 or 8 of us, and just trying to get our energy back. It was like 140 in West Virginia. Getting some food in us and calming down, and it started getting really quiet, and everyone was relaxing, and it seemed like it was going to be more of an up night for us. So it was kind of like a celebration, but all the energy came down. And one of the girls...
I'm going to pause you for a moment.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, so we're going to pick up on one of the girls. Prior to this, outside of all of Berkeley Springs, we've been talking about life here at Big Boy Farms. That's where this is being filmed right now. And there's this interesting relationship we have, with technology, specifically with internet access.
Yeah.
The property only it's remote, and it's in a hollow within the Appalachian Mountains, and the only way you could receive internet access is like a 1999 DSL line. And we've been talking about, like, what do we do with it? There's certain nice things about not having internet access, but then there's also limitations, and it's been a big thing of discussion. And after we discussed it, like after we actually had a conversation with like the people who owned the property, the next day we get in the mail, we get something from HughesNet. So like the Howard Hughes Company, HughesNet, which is military industrial complex. And they're like, hey, yeah, we do satellite internet. And this is the answer to your question. This will fix your problem. And that in itself had been like a feedback loop, which we've been laughing at. We're like, wow, this is, we've been talking about needing a solution, and then the solution is provided by the snake, right? The serpent is providing us the solution, and we're just like, we're playful with this whole sort of idea of HughesNet and satellite, and they're listening to us, and then they like it literally said, the mailer said, now servicing the street which the farm is on. So that being said, one of the girls.
Yeah, one of the girls comes up and she decides to bring out a singing bowl.
Because the energy's real low.
Energy's real low. Everyone, it wasn't bad energy. It was just everybody was really in a calm state. She brings out this energy bowl and kind of electrifies us all. Not
like
only
a crystal
sound,
bowl, like the...
Yeah, singing bowl, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, I don't know if it was the resonance of it, or what it does, or the feeling, all of it. Yeah, it was like we started passing it around, and you could feel everyone started to get a little jokey and a little open, and then getting interested, and then conversations started picking up, and it kind of changed the whole night. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely did.
Yeah.
So the kicker of this story, so like the bowl comes out, and you pointed that out. You're like, guys, do you realize what it was like before the bowl came out? Because the bowl was passed around and everyone had opportunity, like in a very it wasn't formal. It wasn't like a formal sound healing session.
Not at all.
Not at all.
That's what was great about it.
It was very informal. She played with it. People are still talking like, hey, let me try.
And we're all flabbergasted, like, what is coming off of that? Yeah.
And yeah, you could feel it. You can feel the frequency in the body. So the kicker.
She asked if anyone wants to communicate with her online. And do we do that? I don't know how you do that.
We just we're like, how do we stay in touch?
Right, because she was getting ready.
Volunteered it.
So this is someone who came as a friend of someone who actually follows this.
Yeah. And
so this woman knew nothing
I don't
about.
have to give her information because that's not actually part of it. But yeah, so that's what I was wondering. I didn't want to give her information, but
She didn't know what she was stepping into. She was pulled in, like a friend of hers was like, hey, I'm gonna go to this thing in Berkeley Springs. You're up in town. Why don't you come with me? I think you're really gonna enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
So then she came and she camped with us, and we may have been a little bit further off center than what she was accustomed to, but we all kind of connected, and particularly once she brought out this singing bowl, and then she was getting ready to retire for the evening, and that would have been the last time we'd see her. We're all saying goodbye, and then we're like, after also talking about like, thank you so much for bringing out this singing bowl, because she was kind of on the periphery of the experience because she was a new person. She wasn't really into like synchromysticism, but she was open to it. And then at the very end, we're like, well, what's your name? Like, how can we get in touch? And so what does she tell us her last name is?
Hughes.
She's Hughes. So it was the HughesNet of the whole thing was the HughesNet satellite frequency coming down to connect us. And then another Hughes is the frequency that we connect in a different way.
That changes the whole energy of the night. Came from the same internet, the HughesNet.
All right. So... Now,
so it's just continuous.
Those bowls are called crystal singing bowls, by the way. Yeah. Just to... That's probably more of an inside piece of information.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Put it all together.
Then we went to Occoquan.
Yeah, packed up and went to... that's Virginia, right?
That's in Virginia, correct. In Occoquan. And the Occoquan...
That is like major deep state stepping into as far as that angle.
Yes, and we'll go there. But the Occoquan felt like it was a denouement. Do you know what a denouement is? So it's like after the climax in a story, then there's kind of there's a lessening, it's not as intense and things are kind of like and wrapped together. So like Berkeley Springs was an intense.
Totally.
There were a lot of people here. There was a lot of action. It was the solstice. It was all around that. Oh, this is what we got. So Berkeley Springs. We go to Berkeley Springs,
Yeah, never ends. Yeah.
and Berkeley Springs is just. It's hard to put your finger on exactly what you want to describe it. Like
It's
there's
a very small town.
small
Just getting
town.
that
There's an
idea
air
out.
of sophistication to it.
Yeah.
There's an air of like of backwoods to it. All these different things, and above the it's on hills.
The Roman baths.
Above the Roman baths is something which is known as the Berkeley Springs Castle. We're like, hey, let's go up and see this castle, and we walk up to it.
And it's real. It's got the turrets, like major real stone turrets,
Right.
all looking like ancient European.
Medieval sort of
Medieval.
things.
Gorgeous.
And the most interesting thing, the thing which I've never seen before, what did we see when we get up there on the gates for the
When we get up there, and there was gargoyles. So we wanted to get a closer look at the gargoyles. They're all kind of pointed in a certain direction, whatever they're doing there. And then it was like, there's an entrance on this side wall, on this side, and this side. And we come up closer to each one to try to get a better look at the gargoyles. And looks like original stone tablets that are like kind of clipped onto the thing. They're not part of it.
There's
Ridiculous.
There's the pillar of the stone wall that encompasses
The entrance.
the entrance of the castle and the
blocking
big gates,
Yeah.
private property, and on these gates, and this is stone from the area, like stone which has obviously been quarried from the immediate area to build this
100%.
castle, which looks like it's from the medieval Europe. And then on there is probably like a 12-inch by 12-inch sandstone carved image of Sumerian priests.
Sumerian priests.
Total Sumerian priests.
Not even a question. Anyone who would see it would that's obvious. We can't
Like-
do any slides on this one, but have you seen any of those? You'd see this.
Right, it's
Yeah,
like the
wasn't
things where
even
you
a
see
question.
like the priests with the fish head hats.
Yeah,
like
and the curly hair and the beard's exactly the same. But
where are we? Where do they put the Sumerian priests on the castle?
on Wikipedia it says they're all in West Virginia. Right. If anywhere, it'd be West Virginia. So it's very, very odd. Not only that the castle's there and it's ancient, but to walk up to it. And I've been studying this stuff for 15 years. I've never seen a Sumerian tablet.
outside of pictures and books or
Pictures
in
and
museums.
books. Yeah. And
Like-
I've always wanted to. I was like, but I'm never going to get to that dark of the deep state to be able to see a hidden, 30,000-year-old Sumerian tablet.
Let's just try to make I'm a mainstream person and there's nothing weird going on. Now let me explain to you why there's a Sumerian priest on this medieval castle.
On the protection,
it was on the protection.
and it was not protected for water damage or weather damage. You know what I mean? It's like it was that they probably how much did they have in there if they have this on the outside protecting it? Either like that they had too much of it, or like that's how important they are to protect that area. That you would put them two priests protecting the entrance of whatever that was. It went into the mountain. Who knows? But it's really extravagant to have those there. Yeah, it's fantastic.
It's the strangest thing I'd ever seen. But it was such par for the course. And why are we the purpose of this conversation is there's something happening, which is most clear in our immediate experience. And the more people who are involved with it, the more that seems to ripple out. So
even the new people there were seeing it and feeling it, and they're like, "Oh, there's something." Yeah, we're starting to connect to other things here. It's really a beautiful thing.
So we went to Quantico or Occoquan the next day. That's like a 2-hour car ride into Virginia, onto another river. We were in Berkeley Springs and we did the ceremony on the Potomac.
Yeah.
The Potomac's the river that goes through Washington, D.C. and then eventually empties into the Chesapeake. And then one of the tributaries to the Potomac is the Occoquan River. And we met where the Occoquan meets the Potomac River.
Yeah.
And that part of the world is Quantico, Virginia. best known now as the headquarters for the FBI. The Marines have its major significance for the Marine Corps is at Quantico as there. And then if you know your CIA history, like the OSS had major initial, like before the FBI, before the CIA,
Yeah.
before I think even Quantico, the Marines were there. The proto CIA was in that spot.
the
Like
originator.
this is like the deep state, and so we went and we had a small ceremony.
Very, very intimate.
The
Intimate, nice ceremony.
the most interesting thing about the only 4 people showed up. 13 were at the last one.
Yep.
And what was funny is one of the guys who showed up, his name is Peterson. Just
Yeah,
like-
so one of the characters that showed up, one of the supporters that showed up to be a part of it, had the same last name as the AI.
as the AI
Yeah,
Institute. I mean,
yeah.
so we went and we did that, and that was
Par for the course.
it was par for the course. A little bit non like particularly coming from Berkeley Springs, non-eventful. It felt much more intimate. Like it felt a little bit. We were a little bit further away from the water than what we normally are. We're normally right in the water. Like you could walk in. Berkeley Springs, we were in the water. We were on rocks, rocks that were in the Potomac River.
Yeah.
So can I hop in here?
Certainly.
So with Aquapon, I thought it was so interesting that we had been talking about, since it was the height of the solstice, it's the most masculine season of the sun, and it's like the sun is actually going into the other side, like going back to diminishing versus peaking.
Because it's after the solstice. Okay,
Right,
yeah.
right. And so we're going, and the deep state is kind of related in some thread to the dark masculine, let's see if I can pull this together. So we initiated the queen with the Roman baths, like the Roman Empire, like the dark masculine locale archetype. And then we brought her to the Aquapon, which has the Great Spirit locale energy archetype. So great.
Because Occoquan,
Aquapon means at the end of all water, and it's in Algonquin and in Lenape, like myth telling. At the end of all water is always followed up with at the end of all water where Great Spirit lives. It's like part of their mythology. So, and like Virgin Mary is right there in the waterway, like tattooed on the maps, the matrix maps of our time.
in the middle of that river is the border between Maryland and Virginia,
Right.
which is the
Yes.
Virgin
And
Mary.
it literally says Virginia, Maryland, so it's like saying Virgin Mary. But anyways, the thematic I was trying to thread together was, we knew there was going to be this like masculine thread from Berkeley Springs to Occoquan, dark masculine, light masculine, and then four masculines showed up. And it was like you each represented each of the archangels, each of the four directions, each of the phases of the moon. And I was just kind of like on the periphery, like facilitating what felt like more of like a brotherhood of kings that had like ventured through this geomancy of headwaters that flowed, you know, because like Berkeley Springs runs into the Warm Springs Creek, which runs into Cacapon, which runs into Potomac, and it's like we caught up downstream at Occoquan. And you know, Great Spirit is very much a more of a masculine archetype. Great Spirit wasn't like gendered, but if you hear Great Spirit, you're not thinking like of the Virgin Mary. You're thinking of God, right?
Right.
Like the Fatherhead. And so it was like the Queen had her kings and like this like whatever dynamic she needed to have with the masculine energy, she had that, and then it actually manifested in Occoquan as like the four of you.
Yeah, beautiful. Well said.
Yeah.
So then what's next?
Well, what's next is the Chesapeake Bay.
So at the time of this recording, June 26th, we have in front of us peaking or completing on July 13th. Is that Asheville?
Floyd.
No, 15th is Asheville then.
Oh shoot. July 12th is Floyd, and then 14th is Asheville.
Okay.
I don't know. They're on your Instagram.
They're on the Instagram. So, okay, so there are 3 more ceremonies left on the East Coast. So we're heading down, leaving tomorrow, you and I are, to go to Norfolk, and we're going to hold a ceremony right at the mouth of the Chesapeake Bay. And then after that, then we are going to go to 2 other rivers. Everything we've done so far has been
Rivers,
part of
yeah.
the Susquehanna water system. So Chesapeake, Potomac, Susquehanna River. And now we're going to go to the 2 sister rivers. Once we complete at Norfolk, we're going to go to the New River, which is and we're going to access that in Floyd, Virginia. And then we're going to go to Asheville, North Carolina. And that's for the French Broad River. And the reason why those 2 places have been selected is because the Susquehanna, the French Broad, and the New are each of those are rivers that are estimated to be 300 million years old of flowing or longer. I mean, those are nonsensical numbers. They don't mean anything, but they're what the geologists tell us. So we have a point of reference.
They tell us that, yeah.
And they tell us it for a reason. There are only 5 rivers said to be near that age on the planet, and 3 of them are on the eastern seaboard of North America.
Yeah.
And so that
whatever
was
the numbers are, that it's
right.
something's going on.
There's
with
something
those.
of significance. So we're blending in. Part of going into the detail and sharing the story the way that we are is I really want to extend the invitation for people to become involved. Asheville is probably going to be the location where we're actually doing two things there. We're going to do a presentation, and then one night, so that's going to be the Saturday night, and then that Sunday we're doing the ceremony. So that's the largest population center. I'd love to open that up to anyone who's going to be able to hear this and who lives in the area. Definitely come out, and you can support that way. But then also with the story in which you were telling, so much of this experience began by people just listening to these tales in the privacy of their computer screen. And then when they reach out, when they're like, hey, I want to become part of it, whether it's Sean, who's actually sitting here, or what was the woman's name who sent the, can I say her first name?
I don't know. I
We
can't-
won't even say her name.
Right. It's
But
probably best.
it's best that we don't say her name. But she sent that Queen Elizabeth coin. And that built in so much in these experiences. So I want to greatly encourage everyone, if you feel something with these stories, reach out, support. And then on top of that, we need the support. This is a co-creative sort of experience.
If anyone is listening and can get us out into the middle of the Chesapeake Bay, I'd really prefer to drop the Queen into the peak center of the Chesapeake Bay.
Right.
Anyone who's a boater and can take us out on a boat.
So the best way to reach out or support, we're going to have links in the video. There's the the GoFundMe link is how you would register to come to any of the ceremonies.
And at this point, catch up, because there's like posts about the ceremonies and the water.
All of that information is a way to become involved. And then also a Starboard ceremony. Like, I'm doing private sessions for people again. I stopped doing them for a while. And so that is another way to both support and to become involved with these ceremonies. So that's my offer to all of you all who are, if you're just listening, passive witnesses, is the invitation to become more actively involved. I'm not certain exactly what it is which we're doing, but there is something which is really occurring in a tangible sort of way.
Yeah. In all different aspects of your life. Yeah. In emotional ways and friendship ways and like my
Life ways.
Yeah.
Lifestyle ways.
Yeah. Lifestyle ways. Just experiencing that or being a part of this River and Star ceremony system is really helping me see, feel, and understand the world in different ways. But then it's actually happening,
and it's bringing you to places you did not anticipate.
Yeah,
the
completely.
exact same thing happened to me and Christy.
Yeah.
We are living in a situation which we did not expect, which came out of nowhere, which is meeting us in a way which is exactly what we need.
And when you look back, it's not so random at all. You can see the connections that were holding you and leading you and guiding you there all along.
Yeah.
It brings a trust with what you're doing in so many more aspects of your life. Like that, there are no mistakes, there are no accidents. Everything is special. Every aspect and who you talk to and what you do and how you act is just, everything is very, very connected. And once you step into that and accept it, trust that that's what's going on, it comes more and more and more, and makes you want to do those things even more and more. It's a very special time.
We had cool cards at every ceremony, and it's been trust, follow the stream, security, joyfulness, and generosity.
Integration.
And integration. And integration was with the four of you. Like it's like we actually did something with the masculine archetypical energy, and the ceremony was like, yeah, there's been integration. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's up?
Any final words, Sean?
I just appreciate you bringing me on and having a different angle to see how this affects people in their real life and in my daily life and in my relationships and how I lead my life. Sometimes I'm sure people can't imagine that this could happen with them like it does with Mike, and just get involved.
Christy, any final words? No. All right, my friends. Thank you for listening. Thank you for participating, and it is my hope and desire that the relationship that has been established over this digital connection will be able to transition into the physical flesh-to-flesh world.
No doubt.
Yeah. Until the next time.
Flesh to fish, and I was doing fish. Fish to fish.
All right. Until the next time, my friends.